Transportation meeting to order. At this time, we have two individuals who have volunteered to lead us in the pledge. If they could come up, we have Mr. Wagner from the high school, business teacher, and we have Angelina Ingman, senior, who was just at our CTE breakfast. She was one of our students that was honored, and she was also the recipient of a $500 scholarship through the CTE. So we are glad that she's here. And if everyone would rise, whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started, I just wanted to welcome, we have a new board member here with us tonight, Sandy Fortuna. It's her first meeting, so welcome. And it's good to have you as part of it. Okay, our mission statement.
Right. At Richmond Community Schools, we provide quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. I'll do roll call. Jessica?
Here.
Kyle?
Here.
Sandy?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Jerry?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
I'm here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, motion to approve the agenda.
A motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the consent agenda as presented in the attached documentation. Support.
Sherry, was that you?
Yes.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Just like to welcome, we have some new hires to the district. Brad Sutherland will be a coach at the middle school for the 7th and 8th grade combined basketball. Elizabeth Klein will be the secretary at Will L. Lee Elementary School and should begin February 24th. And Jessica Sutton is a special education parapro that will begin on February next Tuesday, the 18th, excuse me. It should actually be the 18th.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, it has been moved and supported. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the portion of our meeting, our True Blue moment. It is where we like to recognize great things that are happening in the district. And this evening we have a few things here. So we are going to start first. It is National School Counselors Week. Mr. Walmsley.
This past week, actually last week, was National School Counselors Week. School counselors help students reach their fullest potential and are actively committed to helping students explore their strengths, their interests, their talents, and their related career awareness development. School counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children. School counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves. School counselors identify and utilize community resources that enhance the comprehensive school counseling program and help students become productive members of the society. It is a great pleasure that I introduce our school counselors who play a pivotal role in the educational development of our students. At this time, would Mrs. Lepak and Mrs. May come up to be recognized? These two ladies provide countless hours of support. When we're doing the scheduling, Mrs. Lepak at the high school, either way. Both of them take very due diligent effort to make sure students have the right schedule. Just this morning, there was a student in need this morning, Mrs. Lepak. She was supposed to go to a training, but she puts that aside and helps the student that's in her office. And so that's the kind of school counselors that we have in our district, and I'm very proud of the work that they do. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to present you with this certificate, as well as an opportunity to the board would like to come up and shake their hands. So let's start with Mrs. Lepak.
counselor, they do a lot with students, and not only it's just the scheduling, but also the social emotional support. So again, I thank them for their work. February is also a time for us to celebrate Career and Technical Education Month. And in Richmond, we're pretty lucky to have some of the finest technical education programs that are in the county. Throughout the career and technical education, students are trained in an environment where they are used hands-on techniques that can be applied to 21st century real-world application. Recently, Governor Gretchen Whitmer declared February to be Career and Technical Education Month in Michigan to expose students and their influence to the career tech classes and programs across the state that teach the needed skills for high-demand, high-skill, and high-wage career opportunities. With more than 811,000 open jobs in Michigan that are scheduled to be throughout the year 2024, the Talent and Economic Development of Michigan and Michigan Department of Education have called for the state to increase funding in career and technical education. And I'm proud of what this board has accomplished in the last 5 years in their investment in the career and technical education program. So tonight I'd like to recognize our CTE teachers who make a difference each and every day and provide opportunities for students. So first, some of them were not able to be here, so I will make sure Mr. Castle gets their certificate. Sarah Glansville is our EMT, and I don't believe she was able to be here tonight. Joanne Hurd, our Criminal Justice Program. Jason Robbins, our Television Production Program. Vincent Salvatore, which I don't believe he was here, is our Culinary Arts Program. Don Ventine is from our AIS, Heavy Construction Equipment. And Mr. Wagner has Business Management Technology as well as our Cybersecurity class. We should be very proud of our CTE teachers because they provide opportunities for students to engage in real-world connections. The stories that I see and what I see in the classroom is just unbelievable, so I appreciate everything that they do for our students. Thank you.
Next is our Career and Technical Education Overview and Highlights. Mr. Castle.
Good evening. It's my job tonight and my pleasure just to kind of do a quick overview of the CTE programs that we offer here at Richmond Community Schools. There is no way that I can do justice to all that these staff members do on a daily basis, so I'm going to do my best just to provide a brief overview of what they do and kind of let you get an insight into what's going to go on in their classrooms in a normal day. First of all, what is CTE? So it's an acronym that we hear all the time, and not everyone knows exactly what it is. At Richmond High School, Career Technical Education provides learners with experiences, knowledge, and skills that will prepare them to choose and obtain employment upon high school completion. So these are classes that will not necessarily exclusively lead them to a 2 or 4 year university. They may also lead them into the work world as well. In some cases, they do lead them into post-secondary education, though. We currently have 208 students enrolled in at least one CTE course at Richmond High School. And this includes a couple of students from Armada and New Haven. So we're also proud to say that we're providing services for other schools. We have the type of CTE courses available, the type of CTE staff available, and we're drawing in students from other schools to come to Richmond Community Schools. And when we talk about 208 students, we're talking about just under 40% of our student body is enrolled in the CTE course. So it's pretty impressive. First, we have Mr. Wagner, who's here with us today. Like I said, Mr. Wagner wears many hats at Richmond High School. Accounting 1 and 2, BMT, Cybersecurity 1 and 2, Marketing 1, 2, and 3. These are all 1-hour courses that Mr. Wagner teaches. If you walk in the front of the school, Mr. Wagner's classroom is attached to the demo den in there. So you'll often see him in the den providing real-life experiences for our students. You walk into one of Mr. Wagner's classes and you hear students talking about balancing accounting sheets, customer service, cybersecurity, a lot of real-life applications for our students. He does a great job of balancing the classroom and the school store back and forth, so you'll see him running back and forth all day. He definitely gets his steps in a normal day. So Mr. Wagner does a lot for our students here. Mr. Bannon, where'd you go? There he is, right there. Mr. Bannon is our AIS heavy operations repair and maintenance down at right off of Gratiot down there. This is a 2-year course where our students go in there for 2 hours. So the students come in 0, 1 hour, and then 2, 3. So they're there for a 2-hour block. He has students from Armada as well as Richmond, so he's able to bring the 2 schools together, kind of create that sense of cohesion between them. You walk into Mr. Vanteen's classroom and they are definitely hands-on. You walk in there and they're in the classroom for just a little bit, but then you walk in and they are getting dirty. You can always tell Mr. Vanteen's students when they come back into school because they've got grease up to their elbows, the hair's a little bit messed up. You can definitely tell that they've been working in the classroom. So he's teaching them a lot of skills that I definitely wish I had when I was 17, 18 years old, so I wouldn't have to go pay people to do the things that they're learning how to do. Mrs. Hurd, here she is. Mrs. Hurd is our criminal justice instructor. She works here in the afternoon, teaches a 2-hour block over 1 year. And when we say this, the 2-hour blocks over 1 year, the goal is to get what we call a completer for CTE. So we want them to finish and get a completer status. And in most cases, this is done, in all cases, it's done in either 1 hour over 2 years or 2 hours over 1 year. So they have to cover a certain amount of things called segments in a time period. So the Mrs. Hurd's as well as Mr. Vanteen's, they have 2-hour blocks. So you walk into Mrs. Hurd's class in the afternoon, you'll be hearing a lot about criminal justice and her extensive experience before she got into the classroom. She shares a lot of real life experiences that she had working in criminal justice. And there's always a heated discussion about, well, what happens here? And can we get away with this? And no, we're definitely not going to teach kids to get away with anything. That's the goal on there. No, we're going to teach them how they get caught. So she does a great job in that with our criminal justice students.
They're right.
Teach them the rights. Next, Chef Salvatore, who is not here. The students and the staff lovingly refer to him as Chef in most cases. He is teaching. He has 2 2-hour blocks as well as 1 1-hour class during the day. He is getting our cafe up and running here. We're going back and forth with the Macomb County Health Department, and we hope to be up and running as a fully functioning restaurant here, hopefully within weeks. But the staff definitely loves his class. It's a love-hate relationship. We love the smells and we love the food. We hate what it does to us on a daily basis because there's cinnamon rolls going on in there. There's cookies, there's pies, there's all sorts of delicious foods coming out of there. They start out by learning food safety, which is important to make sure that we're not spreading any foodborne illnesses, knife safety, stove safety, all the things we want to make sure our students know before they go into the work world, but definitely some of the most practical and usable classes as well as just filling the school with awesome aromas on a daily basis. Mr. Robbins, Mr. Robbins over there, teaches our TV and broadcast media. We have a 2-year completer. He teaches a 1-hour course, and he has the ability to go back and forth. So they'll have some classes here, and just a couple of weeks ago, about second semester, he starts taking them back over to the Richmond TV, where the kids are learning some practical skills down there as well. They began running video announcements at the end of last year for our students, which a lot of our student body loved as well as their staff. So the plan is to get them up and running again. The kids really love being able to get up in front of the cameras, and what we've noticed with Mr. Robbins' class is that a lot of kids that are traditionally shy, that have been quiet in most of their high school careers, really go in there and they get in front of a microphone or get in front of a camera, and they really flourish. So not only is he teaching them life skills that they can use in the future, but also the self-confidence to believe in themselves when they go in front of that camera and the microphone. So even a lot of adults know that getting up and talking in front of people and being recorded can be pretty nerve-wracking, but he does a great job in teaching his kids the skills and the self-confidence to do that. Mrs. Lambeau, also not here this evening. The kids take a very, very short bus ride just across the street and a little bit west down Division. And she teaches the EMT class where they're learning life-saving skills. So the common theme you'll notice among all these teachers is they're teaching our kids practical, real-life skills that they can use right now and for the future. So you go over to Mrs. Lambeau's class and they're learning CPR, they're learning first aid, they're learning all sorts of life-saving skills. And one of the unique things about her class is upon completion, once they complete the EMT course and then they take the EMT test, they can be a fully certified EMT at 18 years old. So we can have some of our seniors that are in that class right now finishing up the class, and 6 months from now, if any of us, hopefully not, need a 911 call, there may be a fellow student or one of our students showing up to save our lives or assist saving our lives. So does a great job there. Also a class that services quite a few kids from New Haven. So a New Haven bus comes in, picks up ours, and then swings over there. So this is Lambeau provides services for both school districts. This is other courses that we offer at Richmond High School. Again, our partnership through New Haven High School. We also have the ability to go down to New Haven High School with our students to take an AP computer science class, an auto tech class, which is more of an auto body collision, as opposed to Mr. Van Tien, who's teaching the big engine, and then a sports medicine and anatomy. So a class geared towards preparing students to be maybe an athletic trainer or something in that vein. So what's the importance of CTE? We talked right here, this kind of sums it up. Recent findings from a national survey conducted by the nonprofit Advanced CTE show that CTE students and parents are more satisfied with their educational experience by nearly every single measure compared to those not involved with CTE. This was particularly true for aspects related to career readiness, such as opportunities to explore careers, gain real-world skills, and network employers. So it's kind of hard to see, but if you have a copy in front of you, you can see the results of the survey. CTE courses are not only providing a practical education for our students, but they're also getting our students engaged in their learning, which we all know is key. So if you get a student engaged in their learning and they're owning their education, they're going to be more successful, which is what our CTE teachers do and our CTE students do as well. And I think Mrs. Telta mentioned this earlier, but we had some good news here. Just this last week, we were able to go down to the Macomb ISD and award our 2 CTE Students of the Year. Jenna Gibbons was our first, who was honored for excellence in radio and TV broadcasting with Mr. Robbins, and then Angelina Ingman, who is here with us as well, was honored for excellence in cybersecurity, and she was a very surprised and happy recipient of one of 4 $500 scholarships. She almost fell out of her seat. It was awesome. So we're all very proud of Angelina and Jenna, and that sums up our CTE program. Again, there's much more. I can stand up here for hours talking about it, but we thank our teachers and our students.
Thank you.
When I close this out here, Angelina, now that she's an award winner and a scholarship winner, would like to come up and speak to us just briefly on her experiences in CTE at Richmond High School.
Alright, so I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. I have participated in cybersecurity, which is one of our CTE programs. I took part in cybersecurity 1 and I'm almost done with cybersecurity 2. And I just want to say that this is one of the greatest opportunities of my life. Like, what I've learned is how to combat today's problems on the internet, how to protect our data, because there is a lot of data out there, and we need to know how to protect it so we can protect our industries and our organizations and our government. And so basically, it's taught me real world skills. These labs have taught me to recognize phishing and recognize SMS attacks and recognize what keyloggers do and how they're used, so I can go and learn in college and eventually go into a real world job where I'm recognizing these attacks and trying to stop them. So, and the result of this is it's given me a great opportunity. It's given me a path to college in life. And before this, I wanted to be a pro gamer. Well, now I know what I want to do with my life. I know that I want to go into cybersecurity and I want to help people. So CTE has really given me a great opportunity here, not with just money, but with like finding my path and what I want to do in life. Thank you.
spokesperson for CTE, and someone should get her hooked up with someone at the ISD. That's tremendous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our presentations. Four-county philanthropy library donation. Mr. Koshin.
I'll introduce Mr. Koshin to come on up. Mrs. Dickinson, excuse me.
Just want to take a quick moment, give a little background. Back in December, we received an email from the Youth Advisory Council, the Four County Community Foundation, about getting a free philanthropy library. So reaching out to Ms. Dickens, and she was available to come tonight to give a little presentation so you have an idea of what the library is, some of the books that I've already received, which would be very nice for the lead library. And so I'll just turn over to Kathy to talk about a little bit more about the library.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I am a retired school administrator. I just did a little simple math at the back table. I had attended approximately 345 board meetings in my career, and this was probably the first one I might get to skip out of a little early, so you'll have to pardon me while I enjoy that little bit of freedom. But I am a retired elementary school principal and certainly have a love of education and a love of literacy. Literacy is the core of everything in the elementary, of course. I now am the executive director of the Four County Community Foundation, and we have a very active youth advisory council, which is one thing that I did want to bring before you today. I don't believe that we have any active youth advisory council members from Richmond, and I would love to grab a couple of high school students. Other districts even have some junior high students. What youth advisory is it's basically a group of 8 different districts in our service area. Students represent all those 8 different districts. They come and they have their own committee, and they convene around their own grants. So every quarter they have YAC grants that are youth oriented come to them, and they have to kind of decide which grants to award, how much, and basically philanthropy at the high school level, and they do some great work. I happened to talk to this group, which is a pretty big group. We've got 30 to 40 students, I think, involved. And they got together, and I pitched them the idea, hey, you know, literacy is so very important, and you happen to be in a district every day where there are elementary students learning how to read. How about we give a youth advisory council library, a philanthropy library to the kids? And they thought that was wonderful. In most of our districts, our youth advisory council members are then reaching out to teachers at the elementary, and they're going into classrooms and they're reading these books to youngsters about philanthropy. And I think that's really, really neat in today's world that we have high school students or junior high students, as the case may be, convening meetings around the art and gift of gifting. And so that's pretty neat. So I would absolutely love to have some representation from Richmond. It would be a huge win for me if we could get some kiddos interested in that. It's not a huge time commitment. They meet 4 times a year, and they have a whole lot of fun while they get involved in philanthropic endeavors. So the library is about 30 books about philanthropy or giving, and they are purchased because another foundation recommended them. And on the site, and I provided a letter with the site on there, teachers can go and they can find an entire unit free online for each of those books around giving. So I also wanted to take an opportunity, and I shared with you some of our annual reports. The Four County Community Foundation has been around for a long time, has always been proud to represent the Richmond area, and that is no different today. I am, again, the new executive director, so this is all new territory for me, but I love visiting Richmond. So if there's ever an avenue for me to speak to a group, I'm going to take it. About the good work we do. We do quarterly grants to the tune of about $250,000 a year. We do scholarships each year, again, to about the tune of $250,000 a year. And before I left today, before I skip out of this board meeting for the first time in my whole life, I wanted to make you aware of some funds that the Richmond area has with us And Richmond Athletic Club Endowment Fund is one of them. And I know that recently some bleachers were procured with some of those funds, and that was terrific to see. Also, we have the Richmond Rotary Foundation. And I wanted to really bring this to your attention today. There's a lot of money in there that is available for 4-year scholarships for students. And so that is certainly something that it's Rotary. It's not necessarily just Richmond staff, but certainly we want to get those dollars where you would intend for them to go. There's $140,000 in that fund right now, so that's a substantial amount of money that hopefully we can do some scholarship work with. And also a variety of grants have gone to Richmond schools in past years. First, robotics. We've also partnered and given a grant to the pantry that operates here out of Richmond High School. So we're doing grants, we're awarding grants, we're doing good work all the time. Also in the annual report, I wanted to just make you aware of a couple of events that we're doing. Part of the foundation is not just having community members invest in us so that we can award grants and scholarships, but it's also to just lead, to be a community leader. A couple of events that we have going on, we are going to have a workshop, which a lot of educators have already done, I realize that, on adverse childhood experiences, and essentially how when something happens to a young person, if they don't deal with that, problems emerge in mental health as they get older. And so ACEs is a wonderful, wonderful workshop I've taken part of before. And this is less for educators, well, certainly educators are invited, but just general public to come out and understand how adverse childhood experiences can affect our society, which is a great segue into the last thing that I'll leave with you. We convened a community-wide survey recently, and our respondents came back with 4 clear areas that they wanted the foundation to focus on. They said, hey, these are our big worries, these are our big needs. And we formulated a campaign around that survey, and there was a little handout there in your the annual report again. And the 4 areas, beyond the bell, meaning outside of school day activities for youth to get involved in. Another area that the community said, hey, take a look at this, please. Your story matters, and that's mental health. There's a huge mental health concern, not only for youth, but just people in general. And Stronger Together, there was a desire to help entrepreneurs, to help young business people kind of get a foothold, get a start, get a mentor, get a group to network with. And so that was another area. And then finally, a 4th area was public transportation, especially for our senior citizens in some locations, and also for some of our low socioeconomic families that may not be able to afford enough cars to get everybody around. And so transportation is one of those areas. So you might ask, well, okay, what are you going to do about it? Well, what we're going to do about it is every time we have our quarterly grant cycle, we're going to look at the grants that come before us, and if any of them revolve around these 4 topics, they're going to get priority, and so we will take a look at them. So if a nonprofit's to send us, the senior center is to send us, hey, we want to write it, we want this award so that we can provide transportation vouchers to our senior citizens to get to our activities, we're going to pay close attention to that, because again, transportation is one of our campaigns. And so we are very responsive to the community, and that is the 4 County Community Foundation. I could go on and on and on, a lot of great work, but I appreciate the few minutes, and hopefully we can do a lot more work together in the future. Richmond and the 4 County Community Foundation, Richmond Schools and the 4 County Community Foundation. So please don't hesitate to give me a call at any point in time. Invite me to community groups, because we're all about growing our connections. We are actively looking for community at large members, just basically community members to volunteer to come on board and do some committee work with us, review some scholarships, review some grants, again, I absolutely love some of the high school counselors and teachers in here. Hopefully know a couple of students that would love to be YAC members, so I would love to get that started too. So anxious to partner with Richmond. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Mr. Wagner and his overnight trip requests.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about DECA, which is one of the organizations that gives students opportunity to apply the career technical education skills that they're learning in a real-world situation. So DECA is a marketing club that has a financial component, marketing component, business, and general computer component, where students go and compete at the regional, state, and national level. So currently, we have 5 students that did well at the regional level and qualified to go to the state level for a weekend in Detroit on Thursday, March 5th, 6th, and 7th. So Thursday afternoon, Friday, and then Saturday. So that is in Detroit, and then the other half, do we have to vote on them separate?
You're going to tell us about both of them, and then when we vote on it, that'll be in 2 weeks. We'll do them.
Oh, okay. All right, so that first one, yes, is 4 ladies that will be going to states, and then 1 gentleman going on to the state competition in Detroit. The second half is past few years, we've had students who have qualified to go on to the national competition. This year, I'm waiting to hear back, but I should have 2 students who qualified for our school-based enterprise, or SBE. They wrote a paper, and they will be hopefully gold certified again, and then presented it at the national level in Nashville, Tennessee, the end of April 30th through May 4th, I believe. So that one I am still waiting to hear back on.
When do you find out on the second?
The nationals?
Yeah.
After state competition, well, any students that qualified there will know that weekend, so that'll be Saturday, May 7th. For nationals, I should be hearing back anytime in the month of February from the national office once they've reviewed their paper that they submitted.
So you, on the form you had 2 with 2 possible, is that what so is that what that was, that you're looking, you could have 4 kids qualify for it?
I'm hoping, hoping to have, 4. Like, actually all 5 that are going, it'd be awesome if all 5 qualify for nationals, but I anticipate at least 2, possibly a third or a fourth.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Wagner? I love the fact that you coming up here again with possibly having kids go to nationals. It's pretty awesome for the kids and for you. So thank you for that. As you know, you've been here before. So in 2 weeks is when we'll vote on it, and you don't have to come back to the meeting if you don't want to. But Mr. Walmsley or Mr. Castle will let you know what happens. But we thank you and we appreciate what you do.
Excellent, thank you very much. And while I have the mic, the Devil's Den, our marketing class, my Marketing 1 students are selling things for Valentine's Day. So if anyone wants to send their student, their high school student, anything on Friday, Krispy Kreme donut, a McChicken sandwich, because nothing says I love you like McChicken sandwich, some other goodies. So check out the Facebook post or check out the Devil's Den anytime, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to order your student something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Okay, moving on, the 2020-2021 middle school and high school course catalog.
Okay, this is an annual event we do. We're going to have ask Mr. Bartels to talk to the board regarding the changes at the middle school. Most of the changes in the course catalog fall within the high school, so we'll be going over those for you. So, first couple are just people's position changes that normal. The table of contents will get changed once we have the final document. So now I'm going to start with the middle school overview.
Okay, on this page where we have scheduling requirements, the changes are for grade 6, Spanish culture and multimedia. We're combining the 2 subject contents. So we have somebody of Mrs. Campos caliber and both certifications that she can teach the Spanish culture and multimedia at the same time. So the kids will get a double dose there in 6th grade to see which path they want to go. The basic design high school credit class we're offering at the 7th grade level, and the bottom left there says courses offered may vary depending on student requests, teacher availability, and teacher certification, and a lot of that will play out in the next month when we get the course requests back. On the next page with our educational development plans, a lot of this has come from the requirements from the state of Michigan, and the K-5 component we're taking care of through career exploration activities. And then in 6th grade, that's when we get down to the nitty-gritty and start doing the educational development plans, the EDPs. And we start that in 6th. We currently are doing it in 7th and 8th through high school using career cruising. And career cruising next year is going away. It's transitioning to Zello, which is noted in there, XELO, Zello. So we have to have career cruising in there because the students starting in the 2021 school year will be in career cruising. And then our counselors are going to be trained on how to transfer all that information into Zello because career cruising isn't being supported any longer. And Zello is, I have not seen it, but I've heard that it's more appealing to parents and students. It's user-friendly, and it has a visual that they're going to want to interact with. So that's encouraging because the more communication we get with students and their parents and then the schools, the better off those kids will be with career plans. It's a living document, breathing document that they can update anytime. And like I said, they can go over with their parents and change it as their interest changes and their careers mindset changes. If we continue through here, most of them at the middle school are number changes, which we want the course catalog numbers to match up to the Power School numbers for consistency purposes. And some of them are just splitting classes into 2 grade levels. Like on page 17, I talked about on that first page, that basic design class. That basic design class will be offered in 7th grade and 8th grade. And depending on, student requests, we'll run, however many sections we need. Also, a change in basic design is the content's still the same, but the order in which they're going to teach the content is changing, focusing primarily on 2-dimensional, and second semester will be 3-dimensional work and a little more theory. So that's some of the highlighted changes in basic design. Then 18 was just taking the S off, or putting it on computers. And page 19, the highlighted numbers there, just making sure that those numbers match up with what's currently in Power School. So the red strike through on computer programming 2, that's no longer going to be the course ID, and the one highlighted will be the course ID. On 6th grade computer programming 1, that's first semester, second semester. We'll buy the 2 different course numbers because it is a full year course. And then, as you can see, we have multimedia grade 7 and or grade 8. It's just going to be grade 7 or grade 8. And the same with web design, grade 7 or grade 8. Next one is on page 22. We've been currently running our 7th and 8th grade choirs together. We've been blending them together because of numbers. And when we get larger numbers, then we can split them back into having a 7th grade choir and an 8th grade choir. Right now, we blend them together, and it's about 50 to 60 kids in our choir program. Our choir numbers are good. We like to build it so that we can have 7th and 8th separate someday. And then that's why the red strikes are through choir 7 and 8. The next page, just some strike through for the and or. Page 25, the strike through on physical education grade 7 and or grade 8, because we'll have physical education grade 7 and then we'll have physical education grade 8. So the language of those 2 are about the same. It's just that we're dividing the classes. Instead of having a 7 and or grade 8, it's grade 7 and then underneath is grade 8. Page 26, same thing with advanced physical education. We have a grade 8, and on that previous page, we have our advanced physical education grade 7. And the major difference there between grade 7 and 8 is both of them teach theory and technique, and they don't go crazy lifting because the kids are young and they're growing. They do get into a little more free weights in 8th grade, but it's safe and it's nothing over the top. 28 is what I talked about. Spanish culture, multimedia, making sure the number matches in Power School, and again, being able to take care of a couple contents through, the multimedia medium with the Spanish content. It's pretty neat, and we're excited to do that. The academic support class, we don't know if we're going to run it or not, but it is a class, and again, we're grade 7 and or grade 8 will be the difference, depending on our need. And it'll be blended. Math introduction, grade 6, is the same concept as our 7 and 8 math intro class. The key to these classes is the collaboration between the content area regular math teacher and the math intro teacher, so that they can collaborate lessons together, so students can get a double dose of the instruction, 2 exposures to help students gain confidence. It also has a basic skill component in it to help with those basic skills. Page 32, advanced text analysis, grade 7 and or grade 8. It's the same premise of the text analysis class, but we call it advanced because it's repeater, and it's not a repeater because the kid didn't do well or the student didn't do well the first time around. It's that the student's ready to fly with literacy and informational text comprehension and take it to the next level. So they would be, in that comprehension world, being frustrated around the lower middle school towards the middle school, and want to take them to the high school level before they leave. So most likely it'd be a student who would have taken it in 5th grade might take it in 7 or 8, or a kid in 6th grade might take it again in 8, because you want at least a year in between when you take that course. Questions?
I do.
Okay.
For the EDP, what happens if the parents don't sign? It's an annual thing, and I know it's a process we have to do. What happens if it doesn't happen? What happens with the student, and how do we
That's a good question. I guess they don't sign it. I mean, then it's
It doesn't stop it from happening?
No.
Okay.
I mean, a student could refuse to do the career cruising if they choose, but we haven't had that happen, and if that was, we might facilitate a meeting between parents and students, because it's really what the student wants.
Right.
Parent disagrees, and we'll try to facilitate that the best we can, but it doesn't stop it, no.
Okay. And then I have a question on page 10, the Algebra 1 class, grade 7 or grade 8.
Yes.
The prerequisites. Is this the class that they have to take a test to get
7th
into
graders,
as well?
7th graders, yes.
Okay, but it doesn't say on there that they have to take a test as a prerequisite.
I'm not sure, I'll have to check, but I think we have it on the course selection, where it's pending the results of the test.
Okay.
I'll look at that and follow it up with an email to the board.
Okay.
The next board.
Okay, and then when you're talking about the, let's see if I use the right word, the intervention classes, and you said if we run them, we don't know. If we don't run them, it would because the need's not there, correct? We don't have students that fit into that particular,
Well,
is that what that means?
yes and no. Part of that is that's our federal funding.
Right.
So if we have the funding to run 6 classes, then we'll run the 6
That's
classes.
okay, that's when you're saying now what that means.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I have 2 quick questions.
Yep.
One is, what would be the cutoff for the choir class? You said there's 50 to 60 students in there.
I don't know. I was in high school choir with 125 kids, 52 boys.
Yeah.
So,
I just wondered when it, that happened. And then in the advanced physical education, it says, it's on page 25, I think. It just says Free weights, exercise machines, and conditioning activities will be at 278 on Monday and Thursday. I don't know what 278 is.
I probably shouldn't be there.
Okay.
Yeah, will be on Mondays and Thursdays and do conditioning on Wednesdays. Good catch.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you. The other thing too with the choir, I would think that, I mean, if you have 25 to 30, and you can sound good and do well as a unit on both, you know, you might say 30 and 30. You know, it all depends on, I believe on the level.
Okay.
We'll go into that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Castle?
Now that Mr. Bartels has got us warmed up here, we can go through the high school. We have many more changes in high school, you see. On page 3, it's just a change to the EDP, so that's exactly what Mr. Bartels covered. So we can slide over that. No changes on 34 or 35 or 36 on just the dates at the top. Page 102, I'm sorry, page 39 is the next step here. Talking about how there may be a circumstance where a student might need to meet the graduation requirements in under 4 years, and that we'd have the ability to have them graduated at that time. Now with the addition of some of the college or the high school credit courses at the middle school, it allows students to come over already, you know, with those credits, so they can reach the graduation requirement before the 4 years end. So it just adds that option. We don't anticipate that's going to happen too often, if at all. Sorry, Lexi, it's a year too late.
Just a real quick, page before Mr. Castle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's you can now earn the second world language credit, or earn world, instead of taking the 2 years of world language, you can use to get it through CTE, now you get through CTE or visual performing arts classes.
I skipped over that, I didn't see that. Also on page 39, gives the option to change from a student having the full 6 loads versus should a situation arise where Mr. Walmsley, the superintendent, needs to have the discretion to reduce the student's schedule as allowed by law. And again, we don't anticipate that happening too often unless there's a very extenuating circumstance where the student would already, in most cases, have reached the credits needed to graduate, and we reduce that there.
And this is not referring to students that have an IEP that reduces their schedule. This is more of a general ed student that there may be a unique situation that the law allows us to reduce their schedule.
The next on page 41, our art department, Mrs. Kaganek, has been hard at work this year, not only getting our students an extraordinary amount of scholarships, but also at revamping some of the art curriculum. So you see in there, I'm not going to read through all the changes, but on page 41, she's going through, and then everything highlighted in there is just a change to some of the curriculum and what's being taught, and not so much a change, but more just highlighting what she's doing there and really detailing what the students are going to be covering during the courses. On page 42, it's the same thing with the drawing 3, and the intro to digital art, and the photography 1. We added a change to have the 10th graders also being able to take the photography 1, as well as changing some of the course descriptions in there. Photography 2, there's a change on page 43. Reduces the lab fee. I believe the reduction of lab fee is because we no longer use some of the materials used to print, because it's more of the digital, so there's reduction in cost, which is a great thing for everyone there. Also, it kind of details that there's going to be a flash drive needed because we're doing everything digitally and not using the old school paper Kodak printing. The independent photography on page 43 is being eliminated, and we'll talk a little bit later because we're not actually eliminating the course. It's kind of being integrated into a different course. So the APR, just talking there, one of the prereqs we're talking about, the prereq can be photography or in drawing for the AP, and then talking about the concentration and the number of art projects that are used in the concentration. Page 44 just added the word lab because they go back and forth from the art room to the lab to find them often at the digital media center right here down the hallway. So Ms. Kaganek changed that. The next one on page 46, talks about how we have students that sometimes the instructional time is lost in the transportation because we have students that are going to and from AIS, to and from EMT, to and from New Haven. It allows up to 3 hours of travel time per week, so we don't anticipate any of our students ever spending that much time on a bus back and forth because we're talking about shorter transportation times. But it just just notifies the teacher or the parents that their students may be losing transportation time. I think the farthest transportation time is down to Pankow, which 25 minutes, depending on traffic and the weather. But we don't anticipate it ever being more than 3 hours per week.
This reference is the part of the FT that we count as a district. So you notice this language is in the AIS, EMT, and the TV production. What Mr. Castle was reporting to regarding Pankow, that would fall under Lance Cruz's portion of the FT. But like I said, this allows us to still count a full FT when we consider transportation.
On page 47 in there, just changing some of the course numbers for the BMT. And then adding grade 10 as well to criminal justice in there in an attempt to get some more completers. We were talking about with the CTE, how we want to get the completer course done and get it in earlier, so allowing the 10th graders in there. Page 48, there's nothing.
Mr. Castle,
yes.
You'll notice that strike through the cosmetology, we no longer have a partnership with the cosmetology. The program that we did partner with is no longer business, so we can't offer that program as a partnership. So.
Yeah, Ms. Lebeck and I, we searched extensively for business partners in cosmetology at the northern end of Macomb County. There weren't any. We haven't run this course in several years, so that's one of the courses that's being eliminated, unfortunately. Going to page 49, again, that's talking about the travel time back and forth, so it's the same thing as before, but just talking about EMT, so it's the exact same thing. And again, the travel time to EMT, maybe a minute on a slow day, going back and forth, so that really shouldn't be an issue. Page 51 is the addition of a new course, Marketing 3 there. It's 2 credits over 2 years, and this is putting together what they've learned in the Marketing 1 and 2 courses, and really puts the students in charge of, we were talking about the Devil's Den before, these are going to be the students that are primarily running the Devil's Den. So these are students that have taken Marketing 1 as a 10th grader, Marketing 2 as an 11th grader, and now are in a position where they can essentially be the store managers and run that store through Mr. Wagner. Also on page 51, you'll see that the personal finance has been moved from the CTE portion to the math portion because the personal finance is a math class, it's not a CTE course, so it's just a change, shifting where it is in the catalog. Again, on page 52, just talking about the transportation and time for TV media broadcast. Again, even on the slowest of days, the transportation to City Hall is negligible, so pretty quick. On page 53, it's in there talking about offsite and the transportation back and forth. So we don't want our students driving back and forth. We'd rather have them take artistic transportation in there. And we added that unless authorized by the superintendent, so there may be some extenuating circumstances where our students may on occasion have to self-transport back and forth to Pankow. Page 54, talking about the courses that are offered at New Haven there. And those are the ones that I talked about earlier in my CTE presentation with the auto tech, the sports medicine, and the AP computer science. So again, talking about the transportation back and forth, and no real big changes there, just kind of detailing what we have here. Page 55, there's no changes. Page 56, no changes. 57 is just the numbers. The next big change we get in the high school is on page 59, which is the addition of a new course called Digital Literacy. This is a course designed for 11th and 12th graders, and it's a course that's designed to really examine the differences and changes in the digital literacy, because this generation is really getting most of their reading done, and I think any teenager in the room could probably tell you this, they're doing most of their reading on a digital machine. They're not picking up a hard copy when they're outside of school. So it's really a course that's designed to teach the students how to read and interpret digital literacy versus hardcovers, because the stories nowadays that are coming out of technology, they have that short snippet and they have to be able to get it done in a page or two or a paragraph or two, and teaching the students how to disseminate what they're trying to get across, how to write digitally versus how to write traditionally, and then really how to disseminate fact versus fiction, because one of the big issues we see our students deal with right now is they believe everything they see on a computer or on a TV or on their phone, they assume it's real. So it's really trying to look at that and tell the difference between the clickbait and the other things that are literacy related in our media. Page 60 in there is the writing for publication, the newspaper. I believe this is a class that we did offer in the past, Mr. Walmsley, is that correct? And it's kind of bringing it back in here. So it's a class that's going to be producing a newspaper quarterly is the goal. So once every quarter, it'll be a newspaper that is produced by this classroom, and just reintroducing the class that's been taught at RHS in the past. The yearbook class, again, it's changed to a full course on page 60, so it's changing from a semester to a full year. 62 and 63 are number changes, and then getting to page 64 is that class we talked about, the personal finance. So if you're wondering why personal finance got moved over to the math, we previously discussed that. The next big change is on page 69, the music theory, reading and comprehension. That is a new course that we're going to offer as an elective. It's going to be a semester course for 9th through 12th graders. And that's a non-performance based music class, so the students are in there and they're really learning how to read and compose music. So it's another semester course that we offer as an option as an elective at Richmond High School. Page 70, talking about their dance fundamentals. We made some changes to our dance classes where previously you had to take an entire year's worth of dance to receive your credit, your PE credit. We've now modified it so that you can receive a credit for a one semester course. And we offer 2 semester courses, so it's still a year-long course if you'd like it to be, but it's broken into 2 different semesters, which allows flexibility for our students. They can take that PE credit and then transfer out and take a health course or another elective if they want second semester, or they can continue to stay in there. If there's somebody who likes to take dance, they can take the entire dance year, but it's 2 separate courses and 2 different types of dance during the school year. And then moving on to advanced dance for those students who are passionate about dance, they also have that option to take a second year of dance as well. And I believe that's on page 71 for you. Page 71 as well is a personal fitness and conditioning. There's some strikeouts in there. Just talking about the different things that we're going to be doing in the physical fitness class for personal fitness and conditioning at Richmond High School. Page 72, just Health 2 allows 9th graders to take it because we now know that they can take Health 1 in middle school, so we don't want to require that they don't want to take away from the fact that they can take Health 2 as a 9th grader if they so choose to. Page 74, the forensics class, just some changing the details there, adding the blood spatter, fingerprints, and fiber identification. This is one of the favorites that we offer here at Richmond High School, and just some changes in there. I believe for the 2nd year in a row here, our murderer got away scot-free. Anyone attended the trial, they not enough evidence, they must have acquitted him again. So it's one of the favorites, and that's just a change in the detail there. Page 75 continues the forensics analysis and just a changing in the language here. Some number changes on 76. On 78, the AP Government and Politics. It was a full course. It was listed before as a full year course because it was listed them together as AP and then economics, but we split it as it should have been split all along, so it's down to the AP Government and Politics is one semester and then Honors Economics is the other semester. So you have the ability to take one, and then if you don't want to take the other one at that time, you can. If you wanted to wait till another year to take that, you have that flexibility. Page 80 talks about, this is our understanding history through film. We currently offer understanding American history through film. And one of the things that we're offering is we also wanted to offer an understanding world history through film. So they'll be offered during alternate years. So if you were a sophomore or a junior, and if you're a junior and you took understanding film, try that again, understanding U.S. history through film as a junior and you wanted to take it as a senior, you wouldn't be taking the same course again. You'd be talking about different films through a different lens. And it has a course description there. So you have the ability to slide into the semester courses, slide in and out of those as they're offered. And then just kind of details the different movies that are in there. There's not a list of movies here, but Mr. Trent, who currently teaches that course, he has a permission slip that lists all the courses on it, and course descriptions, or the movies and movie descriptions that our students take home to their parents. I don't think there's too many more changes for the high school. On page 89, we added that if a student, at the very bottom, if a student fails to complete a district or a school-paid post-secondary course, he or she is responsible for the fees and tuition that are not refunded by the post-secondary institution. So what they're talking about is that if a student, for example, fails a dual enrollment class, they're responsible for repayment to the district.
That aligns with the policy the board previously adopted, I believe in August of 19, it might have been the spring of 19, dual enrollment policy.
And then if we go to page 97, just kind of some cleaning up the language of the class of 2023 taking the dual enrollment courses, and then how and when high school and GPAs are attached to their high school record. They're going to have the option to choose it for high school credit, for college credit, and for high school and college credit. And then depending on their choice there, the GPA is attached to their high school credit or not, depending on their choice. And we also added in the GPA, the 0.5 bonus for a dual enrollment course, which we previously did not have at Richmond High School. So we felt like it was representative and accurate to give the students a bonus for taking that more challenging course of dual enrollment. And then on page 99, just the acknowledgement form there of the EDP. On page 100, that is the movie permission slip. So if a student's going to be taking those, and then again, depending on the year, the video selected, the teacher there would add a list of the videos and movies that are being shown. And that also goes on to page 101. And then the final thing that's added there is the copyrights, the legalities that are attached to showing the videos in class. We did some research on that and wanted to make sure that we had that in there covered. That is a lot of information to take in all at once.
Any questions?
I have a couple questions. What is dual enrollment, the placement test?
Which page are you on? I'm sorry.
97.
I believe that is a test that's taken to show whether or not you are directed toward the academic aptitude. Basically, a placement, not a placement test, but a test that shows whether or not you're ready academically to take the dual enrollment course.
Okay,
It's
so they
new.
take that before.
It's new. We've never used AccuPlacement. It was previously, I can't remember, it was listed in the catalog. There was a different test we used previously.
Compass, is that the one they
Compass,
take?
Yes, Compass.
Is that the one they take at the college?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, I may have missed this, but it talked about driving restrictions for people going to Pankow. Is that true for people going to New Haven and or the EMS course as well?
It's for all offsite. Right. The only time that that a student would be allowed to drive to an offsite would be if they're going there straight from home, not here. So if they're leaving from home at the very beginning of the day, that would be the only. And then in cases where there's extenuating circumstances like family emergencies and stuff, and those are all clear.
Did it mention it in here? I just didn't see it, maybe?
What page is that on? I'm sorry.
I'm looking back myself. I didn't read the page.
I believe in all cases it says unless
It just said.
granted permission by
At the top of the
student.
graph, it said Pankow, and then they had the instructions underneath. But my computer just it doesn't mention the other.
The Bannon, they ride the bus. Now, I say that because if they changed our slots, like for instance, if we have students that are attending the first or second hour or the fifth or sixth hour, there may be a reason that we have students driving because they could be going from there to a dual enrollment course that is at a college level where when we look at the time, they got to leave that spot to get to the college at a certain, or college class. So the intent is that they are using our school transportation at all times. There are cases that we may need to have the flexibility to have a student drive because of a unique situation.
So it's put in there more for the exception, not.
It's the exception, it's not the rule.
Okay.
Correct. Like for example, this year all Pankow classes are offered 5th and 6th hour, so it's pretty easy for students. They come down, they hop on the bus, it takes them there and back. But like Mr. Wagner was saying, if they had a 3rd hour class down there and then a dual enrollment class 4th hour, it wouldn't make much sense for them to hop on the bus and come back and then get in the car and drive all the way back down there. So we'll deal with those on a case by case basis.
Thank you.
What happens for the classes that have the fees if a student wants to take them but they don't have the ability to pay the fee? What do we do?
Primarily like the art classes.
Yeah, the photography, the art, yeah.
I would say first and foremost, we look at what the circumstances are that would prevent them from paying it. If there's a class that a student wants, we're going to make sure they have the class. And with those, figure out how that payment goes into Mrs. Let me face this case here. Kagan's supply budget. Because she monitors those fees to pay for the supplies that she needs for that class.
In my experience, we've never denied a student an education for financial reasons, and I would never anticipate doing that.
Tell me, on page 49, the internship, what is that? And do we have students that do this?
We currently do have, let's see back left, I think there's 2 students right now. Yeah, these are more cases like we have a student who owns his own business, his own lawn care business.
Okay.
There, and so he's getting that. Essentially, what it's designed to is to grant students work experience out in the real world. Back in the old days,
co-op.
It's exactly what I was just going to say. Back in the old days, I had co-op.
Okay.
For lack of a better term, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
There's more hoops we have to go through nowadays to
Yeah.
grant it, to make sure the EDP is aligned with what they want to do, the internship, et cetera. But it's possible.
And they're responsible for a written paper at the end to explain what they learned. Yeah, that's.
And then this is just, you may not have the answer, but I'm throwing it out there. The classes that are offered at Pancow, do we ever, my question is how many of our students go there and can we do this instead? Like, are there some of these classes that are offered that I'm assuming our kids go to, can we do them here? Do we ever think about that?
We currently have 5 students
Okay.
going to Pankow, so a very small amount. And they're all going to Pankow for courses that we do not offer here right now. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't entertain. I would much rather have them in-house. It makes much more sense to have them in-house.
I believe when I started here, we had about 30 students going to Pankow.
Mm-hmm.
And those programs such as EMT,
Have come here now.
culinary, is to keep those FTEs here, and that's what we've started, which actually has grown and gathered students from other districts.
So the answer would be we're still looking.
We're still looking, like there's, for instance, there's a, like a HVAC system, certification. That's something that I'd love to be looking at as an organization. That teacher cadet, I think that's a critical point that every school district has, but the certifications required for that are it has to be a secondary teacher that's got a early childhood elementary type endorsement. We don't have any currently like that.
Yeah, we're currently bringing in many more students from outside districts than we are sending out.
Okay.
Bus from New Haven comes in every morning with, I believe, 12 on it. We have 9 or 10 coming in from Armada to our AIS. We have another 7 going to our EMT, and then we only have that 5 going to Pankow, and then 2 or 3 going to New Haven in the morning. So we're bringing in many more students than we are sending out.
Even the number that we used to send our Armada has dramatically dropped.
Right.
They're staying here.
And then for the new classes, the music theory, the film, all that's pretty exciting. So how does that come about? Does a teacher come to you and say, hey, I'd like to teach this, and it just goes from there? Where is that stuff coming from?
Yep, those are 100% teacher driven. So we sent out an inquiry to the teachers several months ago saying, we're going to be presenting these to the Board of Education. Do you have any courses that you'd like? Teachers submitted those. The administrative team and counselors went through those and said, okay, there's a need for this. There's not a need for this. We went back to them. And it's really the initiative of the teachers in designing courses that they think the kids would be passionate about and that they're going to benefit from.
It's pretty exciting. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Castle. Okay, next, 2020-21 Early Childhood Learning Center offerings. Mrs. Manguni.
So tonight, Mrs. Manguni are going to partner in this presentation. One of the things that we're talking about, we want to show you what we currently offer and look at what we are recommending offering, including looking at some of the costs of programs and potential increases. So at the end of this, you're going to see a slide of here's what we're recommending for you to consider. As the board, you ultimately have the decision of whether or not to stay status quo or cost, et cetera. But I want you to understand the full scope of where we are in the Early Childhood Learning Center.
Thank you. So just to give you a little idea of where some of this information and these ideas come from, we had a consensus with the early childhood team. So on Martin Luther King, we were able to meet as a professional development team and talk about what parents are looking for, what feedback they've gotten, parents talking to administrators as well, looking at parents looking for all-day care, half-day care, are our students kindergarten readiness, which is a kind of a segue from our 4-year-old preschool. So I'll go into detail about that, but I just wanted to let you know that's where some of our information and consensus came from. I do just want to point out the igloos up there. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight, but I just thought it's really exciting to see that we have Green Club at Lee, but we're also kind of segueing to early mindfulness for recycling. So I know some of our board members have students that were in preschool. So if you're ever having a down day, come down to preschool and they'll show you the milk cartons that they drink out of and then made an igloo out of. So that's what we're currently doing. It increases vocabulary. They talk about weather, habitat, recycling, shelter, and all those things. So I just had to highlight good things in our classrooms. As Mr. Walmsley said, we're going to do we're going to look at the programs that we have right now, the cost of them, and then recommendations moving forward. If you take a look at the preschool enrollment trends, we took a look for the last 4 years of the enrollment trends. This is 3-year-old and 4-year-old preschool combined. So as you can see from 2016 until the present, we have went up 41 students and then a jump of 23 students just from last year to this year. I want to say a lot of this has to do obviously with what's going on in our preschool, but I also just want to thank all the other administrators and teachers, because what's going on K-12 is really what's bringing a lot of these families in as well. When we talk about the things that we're offering, parents are asking these questions, whether you realize it or not. Moving forward, what do you have for my student? I know they're 3 and 4 now, but parents are looking futuristic. So they want to know what they can, do and offer and have for their kids moving along. So I think it's really exciting and important that we continue to promote K-12 for our kiddos. For programming, you'll see on the left, which is the white table, that is what we currently offer. So we have 3-year-old AM preschool program offerings, 4-year-old. We have 4-year-old in the AM, 4-year-old in the PM. We have a GSRP, which is Great Start Readiness. We have that all day. Fridays, they do not attend because that's a planning day. As you see, it's Monday through Thursday, but that's why they are not here on Friday. That's a statewide initiative. And then we currently have 2 half-day Great Start Readiness programs. And then if you can go ahead and look at what we're proposing for next year, again, consensus based on parent feedback, collaboration of the staff in looking at kindergarten readiness. We're proposing that we offer a 3-year-old preschool in the PM. And you'll see that'll make sense when we look at the child care slide. Reason being is parents are looking for more of an all-day option. A lot of parents are. So they still have the half-day if that's what they're interested in, but at least gives them the option to have all-day care for their students in a structured preschool environment. So we do have the child care, but it's a little bit of a different look. So it gives them just another dose of a preschool opportunity. Also, the 4-year-old all-day is something that we don't currently offer that we're looking at offering. We have half-day programs right now, and parents and staff are both talking a lot about, I don't know if my child's going to be ready. Now that the 3-day sounded good at the time, but now that we're rolling into the year, I wish that I had done the 5-day. So this is what we're hearing, but again, we can make these decisions based on the interest when we have preschool roundup. Then we have a 4-year-old PM program that we're looking to propose. We currently do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, that's that 3 days a week for our 4-year-olds, where we just believe that 5 days a week may give them more of an opportunity. And as you know, as young as they are, it's hard to build upon things when they're there and then they're not. They're there and then they're not. So as we do our studies with creative curriculum, it's hard to for them to miss a day and then to bring them right back and engage them back into where we were to begin with. So that's one of the reasonings for that. And then we were lucky enough to get another classroom set of spots from Great Start Readiness, which is exciting. We've been applying, and the ISD has released us another session, so we are looking to do another full session of GSRP all day.
We currently run 2 half-days in the PM, and right now for this year, the intent was to try to make that to be a full day because that was the need for the parent, but we physically didn't have the space in the building at this point to offer another AM session of GSRP, so that's why we have the 2 PM. So what Mrs. Manguni's talking about is that we currently have a full day GSRP in the white on the right. Take those 2 half days and make them a second full day, so students could be there all day.
And then the proposed calendar is that our 5-day program, students would have 157 instructional preschool days, and then our 3-day program students would have 92. And now we're going to move to the program cost. So currently, same as the previous slide, in white is what we currently charge for our tuition. This is per, obviously, school year. So for our 3 or 4-year-olds that go 3 days a week, whether that's AM or PM, it is currently $1,200 per year. Our 4-year-olds that go 5 days a week, but remember those are half days, is $1,700 per year. So if you move over to the proposed slide, we're looking at an increase for our programs, and we're going to go into detail about the why for those proposals. Looking at $1,350 for our 3 and 4s, going up $150 for our 4-year-olds, going up $350, and then our all-day has not ever been a program that we've offered. So based on the numbers that Mr. Walmsley, Ms. Shannon, and myself have worked, $4,600 per year.
So let me go over the costs here. Currently, you see for the last 5 years, we have not raised our rate. It's been consistent of $1,700 for a 5-day program. I think I might have jumped under, so I apologize.
That's okay.
And the 3-year-old program was $1,200. So when we start looking at employee cost and hourly rate, in the last 5 years, we've increased the rates for preschool teachers as well as the teacher aides in the classrooms. In some cases, it's about a $2 an hour raise over the last 5 years. Part of that has been strategic to get staff, because we were not at the rate that we were competitive to maintain staff, and we actually, our preschool staff is one of the best around. So when you look at revenue, when your personnel costs continue to increase, but your revenue basically remains somewhat flat, even though we may gain more kids here, you can see the difference between our revenue and expenditures is becoming smaller and smaller each year. We're now hitting that point where our revenue is projected to be almost identical to our expenses. And with the retirement rates continuing to rise at the state level, that percentage also affects it. As we have staff, because we've increased the number of programs, we have staff that now qualify for benefit because of the times they work. So the cost of the personnel increases because of the benefit package that has to be offered. So part of how we came up with these dollar figures is, since I've been in the district and the board's direction, this isn't necessarily designed to make the school district money, trying to break even, offer a program for our student. So when you look at and this chart here represents a 3-day program. At 11 students, the district needs to have a preschool teacher and an aide. And when you consider all the costs associated with those 2 individuals for a half day, the indirect costs that get charged to preschool, a portion of Mrs. Naker's salary, the lighting, the custodial costs, etc. That's where the indirect cost comes. The supplies that we allocate to the program. It costs about $15,000 roughly for a 3-day program to run. Currently, if we charge $1,350, which is the proposed rate, at 11 students is our break-even point when we have to add that second aide. Our break-even point, if we do not have to add the aide, in other words, we have 10 students or less, is at 6 students. So 0 through 5, it's actually costing us to run the program, and 6 students is our break-even point. Down here, you'll see the 5-day program. Again, the same concept. You've got what does it cost when we have to add the preschool aide. At this point, we are at 12 students is our break-even point. It costs about $24,200 to run the program. When you figure 12 students, it comes to about $25,000 that's gathered in a revenue source. When you look at the 5-day program, which is both of these programs, were 3-hour days. So it works out to be about a little less than $5 an hour for childcare, or about $15 a day when you multiply the number of days that you're going out. For a full day, 5-day-a-week program, which is the 4-year-old program that was, what's the name here, sorry, it's Mancuni reference. We looked at the cost, the break-even dollar point is about $4,600. And down at the bottom, what I did was I calculated if a parent were to choose the half-day program and they paid the child care rate for the other 4 hours for the rest of the time, this full-day program is actually less than paying these two programs together. Again, all of these programs, we offer a payment plan for parents. They can either pay up front or they have a monthly payment plan where we spread out the payment each month to make it much more manageable for students and families.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to take a look at the child care program cost and recommendations as we just did preschool. So if you take a look at the child care enrollment trends, there's two bars there. The light blue shows you the after-school child care that we offer. So that's $250 when the school day ends, and that's until 6 o'clock p.m. Then we have our preschool midday child care in the dark blue, and this time is from 10:50 when they get out of their first preschool session, and when then the school day ends. So that's kind of that midday right there. So as you can see, we've went up tremendously. We have 31 little preschoolers in our child care eating lunch and ready for their either next session of preschool or to stay in child care. So what we see by this number, and after talking with parents, and parents are looking again for the all-day option. That's why they're there for that morning preschool, and then we see our child care numbers and they're there until 2:50 because they're looking for them to be there for the majority of the day because of working purposes, etc. So that's where we're looking to propose the additional afternoon sessions or all-day options.
This currently is our child care revenue. As again, you can see with the more kids or the additional kids that we have to add more staff, which increases your cost for expenditures. And the rate, as you can see, we haven't gained much more in the revenue because the cost that we have charged for the child care has been the same for the last 5 years. In 2015-16, we changed it to be a flat rate, which we're going to talk about, as well as an hourly rate depending on the time of the day. So our projector right now is we should end up about even with the revenue that we gain from child care as well as the expenses. When you look at the hourly rate for child care, we've increased the hourly rate, again, trying to be competitive and maintaining staff to staff the needs that we have. I'll turn it back over to Missy.
Thank you. Again, the white shows our current program offerings for our child care. So we're open at 6:30 in the morning for before care. So that's students ages 3 all the way to 13 is what our license covers. And then at 7:50 when the school day starts, they go on to their school day. Then we have that midday child care that I talked about for our preschool families that they have a morning preschool that they attend, and then they have the opportunity to come to child care thereafter. And then once school is let out and the floodgates open, we also have 2:50 p.m. until 6 o'clock p.m. For our families for our evening, afternoon child care. We are looking at, based on interest and need, specifically, we're looking at the opportunity to give parents the morning child care option. So that would allow them to have them before school child care if they wanted to, enrolling them in a child care in the morning and then doing a PM preschool option. But again, we give an interest form at preschool roundup. We ask parents what their need is, and then we form the programs based on what the need is for our families. And then child care cost. Currently, before school child care right now is a $5 flat fee. So if students come at 6:30 in the morning or if they come at 7:20 in the morning, it is a $5 flat fee. If they come between that 10:50 to 2:50 time, it's $4.50 an hour for that midday preschool child care. And our afternoon child care, which is the 2:50 to 6 o'clock, is a $7 flat fee. That has been that way, at least I know since I've been here 5 years, Mr. Walmsley, I believe since you've been here after we discussed. So what we're proposing is looking at doing $4.50 an hour, consistent with regardless of how long you're attending that program or for how long.
The flat rates were put in place when we did the billing paper pencil where the parents signed in on the manual paper. There is now a ProCare system that allows parents to sign in and dates and time and everything, so the calculation. So it was much more efficient as an organization to go to a flat rate, and then that small group that use the during the day, midday childcare, they have that be per flat. So we're looking at using the ProCare system to be just a $4.50 an hour flat rate for whatever childcare you use.
So to summarize, what we brought in front of you today is looking for approval for additional preschool offerings, again, based on need. The approval for the tuition changes, approval for additional childcare offering, and also the rate changes from the flat rate to the hourly rate.
So I would just close with this. When you look at the additional offering, as Mrs. Manguni said, all of it's based on the enrollment that we get from the preschool roundup that is going to happen on, I think it's March 10th or 12th. It's
12, thank you.
12, one of them's the March 11th at 5:30, if you don't know. As well as the looking at the preschool tuition charges. This will come back to you in 2 weeks. I really would like the board to just think about this for the 2 weeks, because this is a change. We have not made changes in the preschool program from a funding and revenue source for 5 years. It's been consistent, so this would be a change. And again, trying to keep our costs at a break-even perspective.
So the idea is, in 2 weeks, you want information, so when you have the roundup, that it's out there, this is what it's going to cost, even though you're asking for the additional stuff based on need. You're not going to know the
Well,
need.
we would if the board is okay with putting that full-day program, we put it in our offering. It may not run. I mean, we may not have enough kids who are parents' option, but we have the ability, we have the physical space in the building as we projected where we believe the enrollment will be for next year, and I'm projecting a 5th, 2nd grade, and continuing 5 of each section. Every room in the building would be back utilized for next year, and with the anticipation of the 2021 school year opening the new addition.
And I'd like to add too that, let's say for the 4-year-old all-day option that you think, maybe not the best thing, maybe we don't want to offer that. Parents still have the opportunity to do the AM and do the PM. So you lose the consistency of maybe the same teacher or the students or something like that, but we're not really not going to offer something. It's just a different look, so it might be all day opposed to the AM and the PM. So we can still offer parents the all-day option. It just may not have this look. Same thing as if we say, man, only 2 parents are interested in the all-day program. They're interested in half-day 4-year-old. That's when we would open another session of the half-day 4-year-old and then communicate with those other parents.
Our philosophy is not that we do not turn away kids. So if Mrs. Davier has the students to run it, we have open sections with just a teacher. But we're trying to look at what does that cost, break even, because if this program does cost the district money, obviously it's coming out of the general fund in some fashion. So for the biggest takeaway from here for the board to consider is, do you want to consider changing the child care rates as well as the preschool rates? And if there's any questions the board has or wants further information, I'd be more than happy to provide it as you think about it and ponder it.
Are there any immediate questions? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, our 2020 fiscal year budget amendment number 2.
So before Mrs. Shad starts, in your packet you should have the forms that we typically have seen in the past. It gives the actual budgets, the original budget, the first amended budget, and the proposed budget. The changes from the first amendment budget to the proposed really represent now that insurance benefits and open enrollment is over, where everybody fell in terms of the selections. We've had singles go to 2-person and switching from full family to PAC-D to because they're taking their spouse's insurance, et cetera. So what is the impact on the budget? So I'm going to turn it over to Chad, and she can highlight the yellow areas that are changes.
On the top of the revenues, the top section, you'll notice if you look all the way over to the right column, it says 2019-20 proposed, And if you compare that to the column to the left, which says First Amendment, there's no changes in the revenues. As we scroll down to the expenditure projections, this is where we start to make changes. There are no changes in the elementary. In the middle school section, you can see, as Brian mentioned, the health changes, where we had someone who went up in health insurance by about $16,000, so we had someone perhaps change to our health insurance, or a couple people. And then the line down where it says FICA and Medicare other benefits, there's a decrease there, which means the cash in lieu decreased. In high school, we have similar changes. The insurance expense decreased about $7,000, and our cash in lieu increased about $600. And then at the bottom, there's another change under capital outlay other expenses. This is where we pay money to the Macomb ISD for the, not Macomb ISD, to another district for our International Academy of Macomb. And we have fewer students this year, so we're decreasing that budget line from $56,000 to $8,180.
We currently only have one student in the area.
There are no changes to preschool or summer school. Special education, there are no changes. And then we get to Title I at risk. At risk, we did do some changes for staffing, rearranging staffing, where we offered additional teachers who were teaching remedial courses in the middle school. So under that section, there's an increase in salaries of about $9,000, health benefits, an increase of about $6,200, retirement benefits, an increase of about $3,800, and FICA, Medicare, and other benefits, an increase of about $560. The other change when you get down to supplies is we reallocated some of our supply money that we did not need in supplies to professional development. So when we get down to improvement of instruction, you'll see changes there. Under vocational education, we had small amounts of changes in insurance. We had $163 increase in health and $131 increase in other benefits. Overall, and under instructional expenses, there's a decrease of about $39,000. No changes under guidance or speech, social work. This is the social work area, 31A. Again, this is 31A moving money out of supplies into another section of the budget. The supply budget increased or decreased there from $19,848 to $4,848, which is a reduction of about $15,000, and you will see that under school improvement. Did not change our TC or other pupil services. And there you will see under improvement of instruction, under purchase services, we went from $37,000 to $52,000. That's an increase of the 15, where we're adding professional development on MTSS for middle school level reading. And then supplies for Perkins grant. You can see the supply line increased by $1,000. We just received an additional $1,000 in the Perkins grant that we had budgeted for under revenue, but missed it in the expenses. So now we've added it to the expenses. There are no changes until we get down to Office of the Principal. And this is under health benefits. We have a decrease of about $6,000 and an increase in other benefits, which would be primarily cash in lieu of about $4,800. And then our final change, I believe, is under athletics. Under capital outlay other, there was a donation of about $15,000 for bleachers, and we did budget that in the revenue when we did the amendment back in December, but we did not budget the expenditure. So this, you can see, goes from $11,500 to $26,495. That's the increase for those using the donated funds to make the purchase. We have to, because we purchased them, we have to budget for that purchase. There are no changes until we get to the bottom line, which is an improvement. Our general fund expenses go from $15,359 to $15,334, which is actually a reduction of about $28,000. Let me try that again. We went from using fund balance of $53,000 to using fund balance of $28,000, which is a reduction of $25,000 in the amount our expenditures exceed our revenues. Our beginning fund balance is $846,348. Using $28,000, we put our fund equity at about $818,000. As a percentage of revenues, it would be 5.35%, and under early warning, I think your sheet shows a different number, maybe 6.8, and this should be 6.71. Sorry, I missed that on your sheet. And then at the bottom section, it just shows by category, salaries changed, benefits changed, purchase services changed, supplies changed, capital outlay changed, and other changes. And again, we reduced our expenses by about $25,000. Questions on that? Very quick. Brian, do you have anything to add?
In your packet, you have the line items for each account number that represents the second amended budget. As we said in December when we did this, we knew we were going to have another amendment come in February regarding particularly the healthcare changes because of the open enrollment period, and recognizing at that point we had less students going into the IAMs, we have less expenses to incur. So what will come before you in 2 weeks is the approval of the second amendment to the FY20 budget.
And then you'll see a final amendment in June once we know where all of our revenues come in and have a better idea of some of those expenses that we can't tell at this point how much we're going to use in utilities or bus fuel, that type of thing. Depends on pricing.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our bond update.
Okay, I would like to ask Paul to come on up. Paul. You may remember Paul from a couple weeks ago from Raymond James. This past February 5th, actually 4th and 5th, we sold our bonds.
Yep.
And Paul's here to talk to you how we did.
Yeah.
Also here is, I have Matt Heiser here. In your action now that we sold the bonds, we are doing the ratified resolution, so just give an overview of what that resolution is and any questions the board may have. So I will turn over to Paul.
Thank you. And let me just get this going as I'm doing this. I'm reminded of something that I truly believe, I may have said this last time I was here. You look across the spectrum of the different types of organizations that exist, and I believe there is no organization more complex than a public school. And at a very high level, I'm sure you just look at all the things that you're having to contemplate during this meeting for one, and there's a ton of things that you're not contemplating during this meeting that you're also responsible for. I have a saying of that public schools are responsible for their constituents' children and their constituents' money. You have to do all your activities in the public. And that makes for very, very complex dynamics. And I commend all of you for the work that you do. You don't make a lot of money on the board doing this, but you're responsible for an awful lot of stuff. And so in all of that stuff that you're responsible for, so as the buildings age and as your infrastructure ages, it comes to your attention that, wow, we need to do something about this. And so you add that to that list of things that you do, and you put together committees to study that, and you put together a bond campaign. You go through the tireless work of a bond campaign. And in my position, I get to see a lot of different campaigns. I thought yours was second to none. I thought the work that you did, I thought the work that Brian did with the video folks, I think I saw one of them here, was outstanding. The information was outstanding. And the results were fantastic, and everybody celebrates. Awesome, we passed that bond. You want to celebrate, you get about 30 seconds, you wake up the next day, and now we have more work to do. We have to sell the bonds and get to work in the construction projects and all that, and work with a team. So I'm here to talk about, not only commend you, but also just to talk about then what happened during that bond sale. So you're out there with about $35 million worth of authorization, and you have to go out and borrow $35 million, and then how do you do that, and all of the work that's involved in there. I'm just going to take you through just a very quick outline of look at the market conditions that we were working in, and then the results of the pricing, what you actually, what the cost to the taxpayers, ultimately the interest cost came in at, a little bit on the issuance cost, and then wrap this up. So it would be quick and certainly open with questions. The first two slides that I have are slides that give you an idea of the interest rate environment. You can hear in any publication, and it's common news, that interest rates are low right now. Well, how low are they? They're at historical lows. And this is a graph that goes back to 2001, and it shows the various, it's a standard, it's called the MMD for AAA bond ratings, of what was the average interest rates over those course of years. And you can see how low they're ultimately getting down near that 1% range on the shortest 10-year notes that they have out there. So that's one picture, and then another picture is this one. I kind of like this one, and it shows the range of interest rates over the various terms. So 1 year out, 2 year out, 3 years, 4 years upwards. The longest that you went out in this is 20 years. The light blue line represents the range over the last, what is that, from 1993, so longer even than the last slide. The blue line that's through the light blue line is the average rate that's been out there. And the red line are the current rates. And so you're at the very bottom of historical low rates at each year. I could get into more detail about this. 1, 2, 3, and 4 isn't quite at the very lowest, it's almost at the lowest. That's where you have really the least bonds that you sold. The majority of bonds are out there on the scale where it's the very lowest. So what did that result in? We took these bonds to market and were able to beat the original projections, and I think this is credit to Brian and Tammy in working with us and working on setting up a schedule. When are you going to go out? How are you going to go out? How are you going to conduct the sale? Original projections were pretty aggressive at 2.85, and if you look at over the course of that 20 years, that would have resulted in $13.7 million worth of interest. We ended up selling these at a true interest cost of 2.55%, 11.8 million, and you can see the difference there from projections of 1.8 million, and that's really telling your taxpayers what you originally said was going to be, this is what you approved, was this kind of a picture, and it had $13 million and almost $14 million in interest. The reality is you're going to be less than 12 million, and that goes right to the taxpayer. So that is really positive news on that piece. The other thing that I know this board was very interested in, and Brian and Tammy, when we first met with them, was one of their big driving points. We want these bonds to be available locally. And so we set the sale up for the first day, as you probably know, was all local. And what came of that was we had $500,000 worth of year bonds bought in Macomb County. I think that's excellent. And then another $150,000 in the Tri-County area. That would be some of that's in Oakland, some of it's in Wayne, and then Genesee County, $100,000. So that was the result of the retail sales period. And the next slide, I think, really attributed again to the oversight of both Brian and Tammy as you're running an organization and looking at your child care, your high school classes, bus transport, all the different things that you're working in. Okay, we have to manage this process of selling bonds, and there's attorneys involved, and there's financial advisors involved, and ultimately then us, the underwriters involved. And when this was set out, the projections that were, and I believe these projections even were given to the state in your application process, showed issuance costs of $180,000 and an underwriter discount, which is our fee of 0.04%, for a total of $316,000. The actual cost came in, and you can see what those are, $160,000 for issuance costs. Our fee was $80,000. We're really pleased to work with you and that you put your faith in us, and we hope that we provided a deal for you on that. ultimately saving in total $76,000 if you go down to that positive variance. And those are costs that were slated to go to issuance costs and to go to underwriting fees. Now they're available to be used for your projects to benefit students. And I just think that's a wonderful number and something to celebrate. So as a result of the oversight of the issuance process, prudent oversight of the issuance process, there's $76,000 freed up from the cost of issuance to directly benefit students. And just as a conclusion, good stewards of taxpayers' money, good stewards of the dollars for your students, and I think the bond sale is something to celebrate. Just like you celebrated to get that victory back in November, I think this is celebrate to say, hey, this step of the process also worked really well. Where you're well on your way to changing the trajectory or impacting students for generations, literally. That's what this does. Right. And I think it's something to celebrate. Some people, you just go along and, okay, yeah, you're sold your bunch. You will see this in 20 years from now. You can come, if you're still here, you're going to see it. If you move away, you come back, that was the work that you did. And I just think it's just so awesome. Last little pitch, maybe just one little quick commercial. Your 2013 bonds will be callable in a couple years. We hope that we've earned your business, and we'll let you know when that makes sense to refinance those. It won't be for a couple years, but Brian and Tammy, you can expect a phone call from me at that time. But and of course, it's always your financial advisors that ultimately help you make that. And that's just kind of a caveat to make sure that that's understood. Final word is thank you very much for putting your faith in us, and hope to continue to work with you in the future. And it's been a really cool endeavor. Any questions or comments?
The only thing I'd like to point out to the board is in your packet, the newsletter, there's a sheet that's from PFM. You could look at that just real quickly, because I think this is also worth celebrating. When we did the bond application, we estimated the debt service payments to be about $58 million, principal and interest. When all of the dust is settled on this bond sale, our final payment was $50 million in debt and interest payments. So there's a savings of almost over $8.9 million in interest and premium savings that we've accomplished in the sale of the bond. We estimated an interest rate of 4.23. Final interest rate was about 2.57. So when you look at, the interest rate was significantly reduced. So the money that's being deposited, hopefully on the 27th of February, when all the bonds, everything goes, we estimated that for this first sale, we'd have $37.2 million. We actually should have $37.6 million. So there's another $439,000 of additional investments in projects. So between this and what I just shared with you, we hit the market at a very good time.
I think, Brian, another thing, and you asked a question on this, and I wasn't able to look at, but I think combining the two first series, that saves you a lot of issuance costs, and again, that those dollars go right to the kids. I think that was a smart move too.
And we had and I will get this chart on the website, but there was, when we put the projection out there, we had several years that we were going to be at a millage rate of 5.6 or 6.95. 6.95. I think there was 6 years in a row that we had it. We actually will only be, I think, 2 years, and then the millage rate will start dropping off for the taxpayers. So what we originally projected and hitting the market we did, it's a good thing for all the taxpayers.
Nice to know.
Thank you. So I have Matt Heiser next, who talked to you about in your packet. You have the approval of the ratification resolution for the state bonds. In your place in front of you, there was a revised addendum page. Maybe you printed and stuck it in front of you. We also have it on the board packet online, and it will be in the attached resolution. So Matt, can you talk about what this project is, or what this resolution is?
Sure. Thank you. So as Brian mentioned, my name is Matt Heiser. I'm a finance attorney with Truman Law Firm. I was out to see you shortly before you decided to move forward with the election. So congratulations on garnering voter support for this. This will be a tremendous project for the school district. So I'm here tonight just to describe for you the resolution that you have before you for your consideration. And what this resolution does is it really closes the loop at the board level. So if I go through the resolution just kind of item by item, you'll see that the first item references the fact that the bond issuance process was kicked off when you adopted the resolution authorizing the bonds in late November. So that resolution authorized the superintendent to enter into a bond purchase agreement with Raymond James and Associates if they were able to go out and sell the bonds pursuant to the parameters that were provided in that bond resolution. And fortunately they were, and not only were they able to sell the bonds within the parameters, they sold the bonds well within the parameters, as Paul described for you. After that occurred on the day of pricing, the superintendent received a letter of recommendation from PFM, the school district's financial advisory firm, and they gave their recommendation for the superintendent to sign that bond purchase agreement with Raymond James and Associates. So that's been done, and the purpose of this resolution is just to ratify the superintendent's action in doing so. So if you look at item number 1 under the therefore provisions, this is basically authorizing the superintendent's acceptance of the bond purchase agreement. It's ratifying and affirming those actions. It's designating the bonds as 2020 school building and site bonds. These are the first of what will be just 2 series. In item 2, it provides the date for the bond issue, which will be February 27th. So that's the day that we'll close the transaction. The school district will receive the bond proceeds. So the bond proceeds will go into the capital projects fund on that day and then be there for the school district to start spending money on the projects that the voters approved. And item 2 also references Exhibit A to the resolution, and that is the pricing page. So on that page you can see there are a number of different columns, the most important of which are the columns labeled maturity date, amount, meaning principal amount, and really yield, because that shows what really is the interest cost for each of the maturities. So you'll see that on May 1, 2022, $100,000 of the bonds will mature and be paid off. And then that will continue to happen each year going out through 2039, when just over $2 million of the bonds will be paid off, or $2.6 million of the bonds will be paid off. So that is the structure for the bond issue, and that's been, and that is how the bonds will be sold. So then moving down to item 3, it provides that some of the bonds can be called. And a good example of that is what Paul mentioned in his slide, meaning that Raymond James is now monitoring your 2013 bond issue, because investors who buy bonds within the first 10 years get what we call call protection. So they know when they buy those bonds that mature within the 10-year period, the school district can never call those bonds in. They'll be able to hold those bonds until maturity. But anybody who buys a bond after the 10-year period, the school district has the option, if interest rates drop enough, to refinance those bonds. So what paragraph 3 provides is that in 10 years, the school district will be able to call in those bonds that mature beginning in 2030 in that amount column of the Exhibit A. So all those bonds maturing 2030 out through 2039, if interest rates are low enough at that time, can be called, and the school district will be able to obtain the benefit of those interest cost savings. Then paragraph 4 just provides the process for calling those bonds, the notice of redemption that needs to be published to bondholder, provided to bondholders. Then paragraphs 5 and 6 just provide for the registration of the bonds and the replacement of bonds if necessary. And then paragraph 7, which is really, in my view, the key paragraph of this resolution, provides what will be done with the bond proceeds when we close the transaction on February 27th. So you'll see in paragraph 7A, just over $160,000 will be used to pay those issuance costs that Paul alluded to. There will be a portion of the bond proceeds that will be deposited into the debt retirement fund and used to pay a portion of the first interest payment on the bonds, which will be due November 1 of this year. And then finally, on the last page, page 3, the lion's share of the money, just over $37.6 million, will be deposited in the capital projects fund and used to build the projects that the voters approved. And then finally, paragraphs 8 and 9 just provide the school district's approval of the offering document for the bond issue, which is kind of similar to a prospectus for a stock offering. For a municipal bond offering, it's called an official statement. And then paragraph 10 just appoints Huntington National Bank to serve as the paying agent and bond registrar for the bond issue. So when it comes time for the school district to make the principal and interest payments to the investors, the school district will forward money from its debt retirement fund to Huntington Bank, and Huntington Bank will see to it that all the bondholders are paid. So with that, does anyone have any questions on the resolution?
No, but I'd like to say thank you for coming and explaining this. I think it's really important. There are those sitting on the board that this is the first time they're going through this, so this your explanation was excellent, and I think it helps us to understand as we're going along what it is that we're all doing here. So
yeah, and I know
appreciate
Brian
it.
was particularly concerned with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, I
happy to do it.
Appreciate
That's
that.
our job.
Yep, very much.
Thank you.
With that, I will give you an update on the Field Turf Stadium project, which is the first of the many projects that will come to the board. Jerry McClellan will be here, the project manager from Law, at the next board meeting, where we will be asking the board to approve the field service contract. We will get those about a week ahead of time reviewing. It all falls within the budget. At the last board meeting, we talked about April 1st as a start date. In talking with the project manager and from Hawk and so forth, the actual start date will actually be the Tuesday after Memorial Day, so we'll be able to get most of our home games in the spring season, not have to redo them, but yet still have plenty of time to get the project finished before the fall. In your packet, you should see also a timeline of projects.
Can I just ask a question for you?
Yep.
Okay, so we're not doing the April 1st, we're doing May 26th because of the spring sports. So we have a spring that's not good, weather-wise and all of that. So we felt it was important. It was more important to make sure that we had home events as opposed to getting this project.
It's more of a timing of the contractor with the other project and fitting us into their slot. They have a slot open for pending your approval for the award of contract. So what would happen is once the board approves the contract on the 24th, now all the balls get in motion in terms of the ordering of the supplies, the materials, the turf field, and so forth, and they'll actually begin on the May 26th. There were others, we left the window open that we could do it April 1st if we needed to. Based on the projects, this is the May 26th will be their start date.
Okay, well then I would talk more about the fact that it has to do with how the project getting done, the people doing it, as opposed to we're going to hold off on a huge project because of having sporting events. I just think that maybe not the message we want to put out to the community, that this is what you just said is the reason for why the May 26th date as opposed to April 1st.
Absolutely. That would be when we place it on the board or the website. That communicated it was really looking at.
Okay.
You'll see a project that looks like this. I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but you'll see the next step is the timeline of the project. Where we are right now is the elementary project, because it's critical that we have those classrooms open by the summer or the fall of 2021 school year. As I alluded to earlier, if assuming the enrollment of the preschool holds true, assuming the enrollment of projected kindergarten first and moving those current 5 sections of first up to the second grade, needing an additional second grade classroom, you will see
we're going to need that. So in March, we are finalizing the drawings and all the scope that includes with the drawing, putting the bid package together. When you think about the elementary school, it's not only the addition, but it's the roof, the lighting, the electrical, the fire alarms, the PA systems, all of that in that project. We are beginning March 1st, the middle school drawings phase, conceptually, based on the conversation that I had with Mr. Bartels and Mr. Bergmeyer about kind of reconfiguring. They have those ideas, so they're now going to start putting those on paper. It's about a month-and-a-half process, and then once we finalize this is the layout or the way the construction of where the rooms will be, then they start this process, which is putting all the documents together for the bid project. So we're looking at August to have that bid approval. So we're anticipating the elementary construction to begin in the August timeframe, with the middle school construction and the renovations of what can be done without disrupting the classroom in the fall. So this will become much more detailed as we begin adding more projects and extending it out there as we complete the process. At the last board meeting, I shared with you the layouts of the elementary addition. Try to find the mouse here. Not much has changed. There's some increases. You can see at the end of the current second grade and third grade wing, again, the 2 classrooms. There's now a new entranceway to get to the building rather than exiting the building out this way, which if you envision the road is right here. The door will be going towards the back of the building. There's an office area here. As we go down to the other wing, we're actually taking Mrs. Napier's office and making that back into a classroom, redesigning the main office. There's a new entranceway, which I'm going to show you a visual of, for the preschool enrollment entrance. Here's the main entrance to the elementary school. We have currently Mr. Koshin's office here, an office, the dean of students or principal, whoever wants whatever office. And then you have a conference room. This conference room that was here is here. So you create a secure vestibule. What currently is now, currently Head Start, would actually be relocated. What currently is childcare, which is this last room, but now have the ability of an open wall to enlarge that area for when we have larger numbers in childcare. It also keeps the secure vestibule into the childcare, so when people are buzzed into the building, they're in the secure vestibule, they have to be buzzed into for access to the childcare. At the end of the hall, you'll see the 4 new classrooms that I talked to you last week about, or last meeting. Again, not much has changed. There's a custodial closet and an IT closet, and 2 bathrooms, a bathroom in each classroom. I'm going to go over to the, at the end of the current 5th kindergarten and 5th first grade classroom are. These again, the 4 classrooms will be added. There are 2 bathroom in each classroom. These are the 2 end classrooms in that building right now. We're proposing going into a little bit into these classrooms here, which would make these 2 classrooms, which are currently, let's see, that would be, help me out, Mr. Koshin, who's the second from the last classroom?
Resource room.
Resource room. So these classrooms will become a little smaller because we're going to add bathrooms to these classrooms. So if you're envisioning, this is basically now becomes the kindergarten wing. What we're envisioning, this becomes the first grade wing with bathrooms in the classroom. There will be 3 classrooms that still do not have bathrooms in them. And this is the staff lounge, which currently has a bathroom. That's the Title I room. Remember, this is where ECSE is, and this is where STEAM, I believe, is. So that gives you the visual of what it looks like. So let's look at the actual kind of three-dimensional drawings. So let's look at the preschool entrance. There would be an entranceway. If you envision over to the right would be the entranceway to the elementary school, which is the main entrance. This is that goes into that secure vestibule for the elementary school concept. Again, this is a rough concept of what it would look like. And then the side elevation, the south side as you're looking at the building, you can see anytime there's an addition on the building, you have to add 8 firewalls. If this wall goes higher, then this would be the 4 classrooms that would be added. You can see the 4 on this side. So they're trying to mimic and capture the same brick color that's in the building from the original brick, which would be on the original building, which is the second part, as well as trying to keep some of the facade similar, so it blends together. There is in your packet, I'll be able to pull it up as well here, but you can see visually, here's the main entrance to Lee. It would be the preschool entrance. It would be your wing addition on the left side of the building, right side of the building. As you're looking at it, this is currently a courtyard. These are the end, 2 additions on the end. So it kind of gives you some elevations and what it would look like to try to keep the aesthetics of the building consistent. So that's where we're at with the elementary. Right now, we're finalizing the interior spacing as well as looking at all the work. We're in the process of meeting regarding PA systems and clock systems and all the other components that are going to go in, and then next we get all the wiring. So the elementary, the basic, this is pretty much done. We're getting there. And now we're heading towards eventually heading towards the middle school drawing. So from a perspective, I'm looking for from a visual, is there anything that the board doesn't like what they see so far? That they want, we've had conversations with Dave and Heidi in terms of the physical layout. Everything that we've designed is what we believe will be within the budget of what's in the scope of the bond. Nothing's elaborate, nothing's beyond what we asked the taxpayers to put in.
I think it looks great. I just have a question.
Yes.
When you originally talked about the wing on the early childhood side, wasn't there a mention of like a mini gym to be put there? Is that happening or not?
When we originally designed it, we looked at it, what we were looking for is a way to open up the space so that you could have basically 2 classrooms. So let me go back to that layout. It's still up here. So we originally looked at having these here, this section here, be kind of 2 classrooms with maybe possibly a movable wall. When you look at putting bathrooms in them, because if we ever had to make them into preschool, it created hallways that we had to, and the bathrooms would then start going into the classroom, and we began losing space. So it was basically this type of concept with maybe a collapsible wall here that you could open up and be that mini gym for the early childhood. What we looked at doing is flipping and putting the childcare and creating this open wall here that basically opens up and can be a large, basically a 2 classroom, similar concept. And so that's where when we started looking at actually costs and detail and square footage, it was better to move it here than do over on this side. Other questions? Good. Good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next is a portion of our meeting for public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, they may do so. They can come up to the podium. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes to talk. It is not a question and answer period, but if you have a question that you need answered, there is a sheet of paper. You can leave your phone number and someone will get back with you. Is there anyone who would like to address the board?
My name is Bob Westerhoff. I was here back in January because I had a concern. My wife used to work in the district. Mrs. Telto, I do appreciate you calling back. Unfortunately, I know we're playing phone tag, so I appreciate that. And thank you, board, for everything you do. I would never want to be a board member or do what you do, so thank you for doing what you're doing. And I love to see everything that's going on in Richmond. I'm in education myself, and I think it's very important for the children. That's why we're all here. So I commend all of you for what you're doing in the district, so thank you. I had a question last time concerning my wife. She received an exit ticket or an exit survey when she resigned from the school district. And I had one question, and I know we're playing phone tag. Who sees those exit surveys? I know the last time you called me, you said that if we were having trouble getting in contact with each other, you would send me a letter. Not to be rude, but I will not accept the letter. I think we need to have a conversation. And also, from what I understand, if I would have known that my wife was going to get thrown under the bus at one of your last meetings also, I guess I wouldn't have spoken at all. But unfortunately, I can't let this go. I signed up to protect my wife, just like, I protect my students. I'm in education also, as I said. And I just have a very hard time about how all this is being handled. My question was, who sees the exit survey? I asked nothing about the results of what I brought up about her exit survey. I don't know who decided to speak at the last board meeting and bring it up. It was all the board members, who it was, but as I said, I think it was unprofessional. That's my personal opinion. I wish I would have been talked to first, which I think would have been the right thing to do. You know what? Everyone has their opinion. If that's what you think of my wife, unfortunately, if you think that low of her, that you have to bring it out in public, I didn't mention anything about it being brought up at a board meeting. I asked for it personally to be addressed to me. So, I still have some questions. So, who sees the exit surveys? Still haven't had that answered. Who decided to address the points that I brought up in her exit survey to the school board in front of the public? And I noticed that some of the points were addressed that actually went against her. And one of the questions I have, why was she reprimanded for asking a question? As an educator, and I think even as adults, if someone doesn't understand or know something, we ask questions. She asked a question about a computer having a lock put on it, or a copier. She was reprimanded for that. I really have a hard time understanding why. So I would appreciate answers. Again, I thank you for all of what you do. So if I could just get those questions answered, I would appreciate it. As I said, a letter is unacceptable. I would like to have a conversation. I do appreciate you reaching out to me. I know we've been playing phone tag, so thank you for doing that. And I did take some leadership classes, and I learned it in leadership. And as I said, a lot of great things going on in Richmond, but the bottom line is that everyone has to work together. That's one important thing that stood out to me when I was taking leadership classes. All right, no one's above anyone else. You got to work together. And with all these results, seeing what's going on, hopefully that's true. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Westerhoff, if you'd like to leave a different number, like do you have a cell phone number possibly?
Yes.
That might be a really good idea.
Too also. Okay,
that might be a really good idea.
Okay.
Is there a pen up there?
No.
You can use mine.
Yeah.
You know what? Why don't you just give it to me? Anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay. Lexi.
Thank you. I do have quite a bit to report tonight because there are a lot of exciting things happening at all the schools. For the Lee School, last Thursday was the PTO-sponsored Winter Carnival. The staff volunteered to run the games, which gave all the PTO parents some great time with their children. And even though it was a snowy day, many were able to still attend and have a great time. The March is Reading Month committee is working hard to plan events for the next month, and hopefully a follow-up from them will come soon. Green Club is planning for waste-free lunches on the 21st and the 28th. The Green Club's art show will be February of 27th. And this month's PBIS assembly at the Lee School will have a focus on honesty. Moving to the middle school has been working hard on the literacy library, which is now all set up and almost ready for use. Following up with the Odyssey of the Mind competition, the middle school team took first place in the regionals and will advance to the state competition on March 14th, so big congratulations to them. Winterfest went great with a full house with many happy students, so a big thank you for the PTA for allowing all that to go smoothly. The PTA Morley Candy fundraiser is right around the corner and will begin February 20th. RMS concluded its American Heart Association awareness. It began with a presentation from Nicole Peach, an AHA representative, during advisory on January 28th. The awareness concluded this past Friday with a students versus staff basketball game. Mrs. Nicolopoulos and Mrs. Monroe are in the planning stages for March's Reading Month. And Cooper Standard STEM night will be Thursday, February 20th at 6 p.m. Lastly, for the high school. The high school hosted an assembly for students to take the Vape-Free February Challenge, which was a kickoff to recognizing the American Heart Association. Student government will be selling American Heart Association merchandise throughout February in the cafeteria during lunches. And the RHS will be hosting Taco Tuesday night along with raising funds for the AHA. It's a mouthful to say. The dinner will take place prior to the Snowcoming game. If you donate $10, you receive a t-shirt, taco dinner, and free entry into the game. Dinner will be in the cafeteria from 5:30 to 7. And if you do decide to donate, you will need to wear the t-shirt for both the dinner and the game for free entry. And students have decided on a readout for the game theme. Those who choose to pledge will also be added into a drawing to participate in the AHA Staff versus Students Dodgeball game. And this is Friday, February 21st during 3rd hour. RHS has partnered with Blue Water Recovery and Outreach Center to conduct student presentations in the afternoon on Thursday, March 19th to discuss opiate use and addiction. The RHS will also be hosting a town hall meeting that night for parents and community members at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. A big thank you for Mr. Day for his support of this project. Senior Nathan Ryan has received news that he is now a finalist in the National Merit Scholarship. Congratulations to Nathan. RHS is very proud of you and all of your hard work. That is not an easy thing to do, and he's really doing well.
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And winter sports are soon to begin, and the high school is very excited to start this new season. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Layoffs? Oh, I apologize. What was it?
Playoffs are ready to begin.
Okay, I apologize.
Mr. Castle, with respect to Nathan Ryan, when does it happen that he finds out results? Is it closer to graduation time? What is the?
No, it's the letter we got today said early March.
Oh, okay.
So it's a couple of weeks.
Okay. That's exciting. Thank you, Lexi. Any questions for Lexi? Nope. Okay. Superintendent legislative update, Mr. Walmsley.
Okay, this morning I had the privilege of going around with the building administrators to announce this year's Teacher of the Year. So at our elementary, Ms. Ashley Gibson. At our middle school, Ms. Christy Crampton. At our high school, Mr. Joseph Ogilvy. These individuals will now go on to compete at the county level against the other 20 districts in the county, as well as members from the intermediate school district. At a celebration that'll be recognized in the spring. But we'll have them come to a future board meeting. Last Tuesday, we had a very special visitor come to see Mrs. Shad in the board office. And I want to thank this individual who wishes to remain anonymous. This individual came into the board office and wrote a check for $5,960.81 to pay off every outstanding lunch balance that a student may owe in Richmond Community Schools. Again, this person wanted to remain anonymous. I can tell you from the stories that I've heard, there were students that we know have been struggling to pay off. They've been paying a little bit each time, from the food service workers, the
some of the shared stories with Tammy and I regarding almost in tears that they no longer have this burden over them. And so this speaks volumes to our community, that coming together to help those in need for whatever reason. And so we're very much appreciative of this individual to give everybody a fresh start. So that helps tremendously. On the legislative front, the Governor Whitmore released her budget on February 6th. Overall budget total is about $61 million, and it reflects about a 3.9 increase over current budget. On the school aid front, it's about a 4.9% increase, and these are some of the things that she's proposing. Community colleges will remain funded through the school aid dollars. For the 2021, that equates to about $433 million of the school aid fund that pays for community college. Just to recall, community college used to be out of general fund, not the school aid, and under Governor Snyder, slowly over time got taken and charged out of the school aid fund. So those are funds that were allocated for K-12, which are now being allocated for community colleges. There's a $400 million increase as well for higher ed, basically a 2.5% increase. The governor is proposing a weighted formula, so it's a 1.5x formula. So basically for a low foundation district like Richmond, it would be a $225 per pupil increase. For a higher funding district, it would be a $150 increase, which now puts lowering the gap between the most funded district to the lowest funded district to about $343. There's also a $60 million investment for economically disadvantaged, oftentimes through the state is through 31A funds at risk. There's a $60 million investment for special ed reimbursement, which all districts benefit, which is very good, and a $5 million increase for English language learner. The executive budget also increased Great Start funding for full-day preschoolers from almost $900 if you look at it from $1,100 increase from $7,200 to $8,300. The governor has also put in a $25 million reimbursement for up to $250 for out-of-pocket expenses for teachers. As we know, teachers spend a lot of their personal money in the classroom, both on getting things that make it nice as well as from instructional that help and enhance the classroom. So this is a way of offsetting that. There is a $5 million CTE incentive payment, which is currently in the budget. Just trying to go through. There's $205 million for MIPS for obligation. It's the money that we get from the state, and then we turn around and reimburse the state. Currently, our retirement rates are 39.91%, and a portion that the state gives us money, we turn around and give it back to them. They maintain the literacy funding coaches in the last budget. They increased $3 million for essential literacy training, which they've been pushing, and which our staff has been part of, not only the second grade teachers this year, but other previous literacy training that they've gone through. That's basically it. And then the last thing, I just remind the voters that on March 10th, there is a enhancement millage on the ballot for the county, Macomb County. If passed, Richmond would receive just under $600,000 for about 10 years. So I would encourage all voters to get out and vote. That's it.
Next, items of interest for members of the board. Does anybody have anything?
I had a chance to attend that winter carnival at the elementary school, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the volunteers and the teachers that helped set that up. It was a blast for the kids, and it was a lot of fun, so thank you.
And I attended the CTE Awards breakfast Friday, I think it was. And while my signals got crossed, I missed the breakfast, but I was there for the whole awards part, and it was very fun to sit with our two students and their family. And Mr. Castle is right, when Angelina was awarded the scholarship, she fell off her chair. I mean, that was exciting to be able to sit there and have her be so shocked and so appreciative of that. So that was very fun, a very fun event. Anybody else? Okay. Next, our action item, the approval of ratifying a resolution for the sale of our bonds. There is a sample motion.
Motion to approve the attached ratifying resolution for the sale of bonds as outlined in the attached documentation.
Support. Is that you, Jessica? Yes. Okay. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Other than just thanking Brian and Tammy for all of their hard work in this process, and Mr. Soma for what Raymond James did. It's very exciting to have this kind of result. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Kyle.
Aye.
Jessica.
Aye.
Sandy. Aye. Sherry.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Angela.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, looking for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Section 8H of the Michigan Open Meetings Act.
Pursuant to Section 8H of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Chris.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Jessica.
Aye.
Angela. Aye. I vote aye. Motion carries. Just to note, we will not be coming out to vote on anything after. We do have another closed session after that, and we will not be voting on anything with respect to that closed session either, but we will come back out into public to go back into closed session for the second closed session.